question of what could be interesting to highlight in terms of SIRE would be experimentation in what we call free progress. That is, finding in any collective of young people those in whom the need for progress has become so strong that it becomes leader of their lives. Finding them and offering them a space, an environment in which they can now take charge of their own education. Those might be few, but the change they can bring to an environment is quite great. And once those, one could say, are identified and the space is offered to them. And when we talk about space and environment, we mean a space of beauty, a space of time, of the possibility for experimentation, the constant pushing of limits, and the questioning of the validity of limits, whether in human terms or in terms of nature's proper evolution. Once those individuals are identified and that space has been offered to them, they make their own way. The question is then, how do we approach all the rest, which is the majority? Let's say the less aligned, if one could say, or the less clear a student is, a young person is, the more centered a teacher has to be, the more receptive, the more enthusiastic, because then the work of any teacher, of any facilitator has to be inspire those youngsters. One of the highlights of the research SIRE has done over the last few decades is really the sense that it is not about the program. It's not about the strategies we come up with, which are very useful, but they're not the core. The core is the attitude, and that attitude is never quite reached. It's a constant evolution. But if we can offer ourselves to that, it's a start. Are we going to be able to grow from these learnings in the past 40 years? For me, that is the main question, because 40 years later, it's a generational shift. And for me, that has been a question ever since I really entered into education, which was a little before my early 20s. This question of what next? How do we create this transition, both for Orville and for what Orville and SIRE in this context can offer the world if we're able to make the most of this transition? That's a big question that we're left with. And I think that's a question that's valid in different ways for the world over. And definitely for any of the SDGs, but this SDG 4 questioning, which looks at really the future of the world in terms of children. And we know today that what we have been offering them is not enough anymore. So what are we going to do about it? Are we ready to really take that into account and to really question that and to be able to tell them we don't really know, but here are some of the tools?